So we are on to Friday. So first off, here's your warm-up activity. Go ahead and take a second to try to check for bins here. According to a recent Census Bureau report, 13% of Americans live below the poverty level. Suppose you plan to sample at random 10 Americans and count the number of people who live below the poverty level. Is this situation binomial? Check bins. So at this point, you should pause the video and check for it. Actually pause the video, because I know you're just going to wait for me to tell you the answer. Alright, great. So, here we go. First off is B. So binary. So you're either here, above the poverty level, or you're below the poverty level. Then for the next one, independence. Well, each American is independent from somebody else. We're all different. Then N, the set number of trials. We actually have 10 trials, so we're good to go for N. And then, also independence, it was random, so it had nothing to do with beforehand. And then every person has a 13% chance of living below the poverty line. So the success is the same for each one. So let's go ahead and try out this one. If you have 10 question multiple choice quizzes with 4 possible answers, A, B, C, or D, what is the probability you get 4 correct? So let's first check bins, and then if it works, we can go ahead and keep going with this distribution. So first off, B. If we're looking at 10 multiple choice questions, what's the B? Well, you can either get your answer right or wrong. Those are your 2 possibilities. For independence, each question is their own answer or their own possible choice. Own question. Then N, well, how many questions are we asking? We're asking 10 questions on this test. Quiz, rather. And then success for getting it right. Well, if there's 4 choices, what's your chance of getting the correct answer? That would be 1 out of 4, or 25% chance each time of getting the question correct. So we're good to go. We know it's binomial distribution. We can move forward with it. So that being said, the goal of a binomial distribution, we want to find the probability of successes, or successes, out of n trials. So some of the new symbols that you'll see are n, the number of trials, p, the probability of success, q represents the probability of failure, and then r is the successes out of n trials. And you should see this all on your notes page. So if you pull back up this sheet from yesterday, you see that the symbols are listed right there. So keep that out, please. So that being said, looking at a binomial probability distribution, you have a few options. You can either use a table or you can use your calculator. So you should have received the table. It's a 4-page packet that goes, I believe, from 1 to 20. So if you notice the n values there, they're pretty limited. So you're only really going to want to use the table when you have small values of n, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do that. When you're using the table, you're first going to go either down to find the number n, and then you're going to go across. Actually, you're still going down to find p, and then you're going to go across to find r. So if you play around with it, you should be able to get going with that. But what I want to talk about is using a graphing calculator. So you either have binom PDF, NPR, binom CDF, NPR. On your notes packet, page rather, you have these. It tells you exactly when to use which. So if you have one R value, you're going to use the binom PDF. If you have R values that range from 0 to R, you're going to use the binom CDF. And then if you have R values that range from R to N, you're going to use the binom CDF as well. This is going to make more sense to you when we actually go through an example, but kind of just preview it. To get there, it says hit second bars. So second, I don't know if I hit it. Well, here we go. We're going to go with a no, that didn't work. Wow, this is real sad. Take 2. Or 10. so we're at bars, and then we're going to scroll down until we get there. So for example, there's the binom PDF that you hit, then enter, and then you would type your necessary information. So let's come back to that in a little bit. Nope, go away. Okay. So here's our first question. If you notice, this was the question that we just checked for bins, so we know that we can use it. So we have a 10-question multiple choice quiz. Well, remember, n represents how many? Well, there's 10. So we plug in a 10 right there. Then our P represents your probability of success. Well, if you remember, if there are 4 answer choices and I can only choose one, it's going to be 1 out of 4. So that's the probability that I am successful and I get the answer correct. What's the probability that I'm unsuccessful and I get it wrong? Well, if there are 3 wrong answer choices, then it's 3 out of 4. So now this is where you go to your calculator, or you can go on a table. I'm going to show you a calculator because obviously it's kind of hard to show you a table when I only have a paper copy for you. So let's go back to your notes sheet real fast. So, hold on a second. Backtrack. We didn't even say R. The whole point of this. So, what's the probability you get 4 correct? Well, R represents my successes. So if I want 4 correct, my R is 4. Sorry about that. So now let's get back to the notes here. So if I have one R value, right? I only have one R value here, R equals 4. So then I'm going to go here, and I know that I'm going to use the top one. So let's go ahead and pull out our calculator. I'll give you a second. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're beginning. So then we'll go to second, and then bars. And then we're going to the first one, so that's the binom PDF. Oops. Hit enter. So the first number you have to type in is your N. Well, there's the 10 questions on the test, so our first number is 10. Then put a comma. And then the next one is P. So P is your probability of success. So that was 1/4. I'm going to put as a decimal, so 0.25. And then the last thing is R. Our R value was 4. Go ahead and hit enter. So that means the probability I get 4 correct is 0.146 or 14.6%. Okay? Alright then. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So this time we have 20 question multiple choice quizzes. So because there are 20 questions, that means our N is equal to 20. There's 3 possible answers this time, so you know your total outcome is going to be 3. What's the probability you get no more than 4 correct? So we start here. For each individual trial, the probability you get something correct this time is 1 out of 3. The probability that I don't get it correct is 2 out of 3. And then it's asking, what's the probability you get no more than 4 correct? So that being said, I can get none correct, I can get 1 correct, I can get 2 correct, 3 correct, or 4 correct, but I can't get any more. So the way we're going to write that is we're going to say we can get from 0 to 4. 0 to 4. So the reason I wrote it as 0 to 4 is because if we go back to our notes here, we have the second line here. If you have R values from 0 to R, use this one, the binom CDF NPR. By the way, I forgot to mention, it was probably a good idea that you have this sheet that you can write it all on. Sorry. Once again. Alright, so let's go ahead, let's go back to right there, and then let's write out what we need. So, because it was this middle one here, let's go ahead and put it in. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to hit second, bars, and now this time I'm going to go down to binom CDF. Hit enter. This time there was 20 questions, we said. And the chance of getting it right was 1/3. Well, 1/3 as a decimal is approximately 0.33333, And this time, because it's 0 to 4, we just have to put our R value in, which is 4. Close those parentheses. Bam! 0.159. Okay? Alright, so now it's your turn. Please go ahead and on that sheet that I told you about later on, let's go here and then go ahead and please complete the rest of them. So you got 3, 4, 5, and 6 to do. At some point today, Ms. Clarkchick will be in here to answer some of your questions, but hopefully you should be okay. Alrighty. There you are. And again, when you're finished, please go back to your project and work on it. Thank you.